All right. Hey, good evening. Welcome to the Stokastic.com NFL Live Before Lock Show. Miami Dolphins, LA Rams. Yeah, closing out week 10 with a good one on Monday Night Football. We're here to break it down. We get the short end of the stick on baseball slates. It's bullshit, Matt.
I'm not about it. This is the best sport, the most viewed sport. Like, what are we doing here? We should have live before lock NFL, whether it's a main slate or showdown slate, whatever it is, take precedent. I'm fully in on this.
Yeah, man. These guys, you know what? This is what I think is, and by the way, people love NBA. It's the
I can do NBA live before lock in 30 seconds right now. Update the Sims after every lock because someone you don't expect is out. Boom. That's it. That's the whole slate. Because it doesn't matter the analysis. Half the guys I talk about are out. Just rerun the Sims after every lock.
And we do have the late swap simulator now where you can see live ownership. That's pretty sweet,
that's
though.
Huge.
It's huge. So, like, getting live ownership updates for NBA, what a difference that makes, man. It's pretty crazy.
But, yeah, that's actually really, really, really useful.
Super useful. Yeah, if you're not using, like, if you can hand build if you're playing a couple lineups or something, but if you're not using the Sims for NBA, you're like, especially
even if there's no injury news, just having the information of who's owned definitively is a huge edge.
Maybe I can convince him to shoot over to playback at 7:15. It's not the craziest idea. And then say, hey, here we go, live before live. Anyway, happy to have you guys with us. If you're tuning in after NBA, appreciate you hanging around for that as well. Fun game to break down. Matt and I talked about it this morning. We're back at it again. But interestingly, we have gotten some changes. You know, I talked about, I had bet the under on Colby Parkinson, easy for me to say, at 22.5 earlier. It's at 13.5 on FanDuel now, which means this guy is definitively going for 50 today, and you should all play him. But I'm not shocked. And that's why, you know, we were both kind of down on him. Season low snaps, season low, or not, low route runs, 20 last week, but Dennis Allen saw season high. So, you know, it was one of those things where we have seen some things move. I saw the moment that Tyreek Hill was ruled in, a lot of books shot his prop up by like 4 to 6 yards. So he's come up a little bit in the projection. A couple things that we're going to need to dig into. We got 45 minutes or so, but this is a really fun slate with a lot. It's not two great teams. I love these. It's not two amazing teams. However, it is two. I still think Miami's better than 2-6. We all know they are, right? Without Tua Tagovailoa, they were dead. But like two competent teams, particularly on offense, with some really good skill players.
Yeah, and two bad defenses. These are two defenses that rank outside the top 23 in just overall efficiency, the Rams being slightly better. But yeah, and the total reflects this. It's nearly 50 points, 49.5. It's climbed a little bit since this morning. The spread has narrowed. Now I'm seeing the Rams -2 in most spots, half point towards the Dolphins since this morning. So yeah, it's a highly competitive game. Not a lot of defense expected to be played. And we have two efficient signal callers with a full cast of skill position players on both sides. Plus, we had some moving parts in the periphery, which definitely affects what we'll talk about today, because we need to be at least considering these guys when we have Tyreek Hill, Waddle, Stafford, Tagovailoa, Achane, Kupp and Nacua. If you want to play those guys, you need to at least be considering what we saw with inactives on the periphery.
100%. And I think, you know, we'll dig into all of that right now. The kickers and defenses always play a role in a slate like this for sure. But just talent across the board. High total. Last I looked, sitting around 48.5. Yeah, we got a lot to get into. One question, and then Chris, I'll get to your super chat. We had someone that mentioned that Tyreek is playing. It was Joe with a torn ligament in his wrist. Possible decoy running wind sprints all night? ? I want to say no. Like, I want to say that Tyreek Hill, if he's playing, he's playing. They're 2-6. Like, you know what? Maybe, Matt, maybe. But Tyreek Hill's durability over the years, go and look at it. Like, this guy rarely misses games unless he's really, really banged up.
The decoy thing almost never happens either. I can't even believe it's happened in the past. you only get so many active roster spots. And if you have an injury and you can't use Tyreek Hill in his normal capacity, like you'd be screwed out there. You might be running something like Achane as your normal slot receiver and then Mostert as your normal running back, which for Miami maybe wouldn't be the craziest thing. But these roster spots are just too valuable to spend on guys that you expect to play 0 snaps. I fully expect him full-time role. It's not a soft tissue injury or something like that. If he can play through the injury, I think he's just fine.
Same. The last time I remember a true decoy situation was Julio Jones with the Falcons. But outside of that, I don't really recall one. It doesn't
Me
happen
either.
that often.
People will say, like, I think there was a T. Higgins game where I think he just
Yeah,
wasn't that involved. I don't think he was a true decoy, though.
it's possible. It's very possible. Either way, let's dig into it. Chris Williams, thank you for gifting the super chats as always. Chris Barragan, thank you for joining the team. Chris said, Williams, it happened last night. I atoned and split first in the NBA showdown. So ladies and gentlemen, make Laffy proud. Atone for your sins. Hit that like button. Bring yourself some good karma. Damn right, brother. And congratulations. Thank you as well. Take a single second. Atone for your sins this evening. Hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. It's 100% free. And if you hate it, if you hate us afterwards, you can click unsubscribe and you never have to hear from us again. Brandon Wagner, $20 super chat. Thank you, brother. Making money with the Sims, building much better lineups. Feel like an idiot trying to do this on my own. Hand building. Yeah, I hear you. Haven't played the showdown with Sims. Can I just plug top 20 lineups or should I adjust some? If you wanted to run like factory settings, unadulterated Sims with NFL Showdown, you absolutely can. Some of the best nights I've had in Showdown are when I've done that. Like we've been on Live Before Lock and I end up just running them as they are, Matt. And it turns out that some of my best nights have come from that. So I don't think you have to make tweaks, but if you are, just know what you're doing is all.
Yeah, I think it's more just a preference thing. A lot of times when I make tweaks, usually it's just to cap an exposure of someone. So in the off chance like they get hurt and they're in like 60% of my lineups, then I might bring that down. The other thing is if you're only running like 20 and maybe you want to play someone a little bit more than the field, like let's just say you got 10 Kyron lineups and you wanted 12. Well, if you increase that, you're still going to get the 12 best Kyron lineups from our sim, which is another great thing if you do just have a preference. Even if it's a silly thing like, oh, I want one lineup with my favorite player. If you use that in the Sims, you're going to get the best lineup with that player.
Triple G asked Matt, Laffy, did Matt ever take the drink, the Four Loco from when we hit 100K? If so, I missed it. No, we got to do it.
We got to plan it out so that way people know.
Okay. So we'll figure one out. Maybe like the Monday after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Okay. Let's do that. You can be gluttonous all Thanksgiving and the weekend and then cap it off with a Monday night Four Loco shotgun.
Yeah, that's going to be a brutal week for me. I'm going to be in Vegas Monday through Wednesday that week and then Thanksgiving. So yeah,
it's going to be a lot.
I might be in pain by Monday.
Last thing, guys, then we're going to go full out, cover everything in the next 30 minutes. We got you. The Sims data is real, according to Wall G. Yeah, listen, if you wanted to join, links are in the description for everything, guys. Down there, you can choose your package, your subscription. The core gives you access to the Sims, to the single lineup sim for every single slate you can imagine, anything out there. All our projections, boom, bust tool, top stacks. You're building better lineups. You're winning more money. And if you wanted to, of course, just join any of our sportsbook partners and get it for free for the entirety of the month, $99 value. If you went in and clicked that claim offer button on Bet365 and on BetMGM, not only are you getting $350 in bonus bets over there by depositing a total of $20, but you're getting 2 months of our core package. It's a $200 value. You can get NBA and NFL, run that through the entirety of the month. What a good time to be playing DFS, be able to jump in on a deal like this. And it's the best one we've legitimately ever done. We've never done a better deal than this. Follow those simple steps. You'll click the link. Just make sure to click claim offer, choose whichever one it is you want, or however many you want, depending on the free months you want, even if it's pick'em sites in a non-legal betting state. Take the screenshots of your welcome email and your first settled bet, and then email us at support@stokastic.com. You're in, baby. You got Thanksgiving football coming up. Come on. I mean, what a better time to get in on the business. Links down there for everything, the regular package, the link, and of course, if you wanted to sign up through any of the partners. Let's go. All right, so I'm going to ask you first out of the gate. I'm going to go into the grease, Matt. We like the grease here. Because on the live before, like, I want to pay attention to a lot of the stuff that means more than just, hey, Cooper Kupp's a good play. Play Puka Nacua. What do we do now with the Rams tight end situation where you've got three guys, all of whom played a decent amount last week, way less Parkinson, way more Davis Allen? How do we approach this spot today? Or do we just kind of get a little bit of all of them? Because right now, that's what I have.
That's what I have too, but I definitely have a preference for the cheaper guys.
Me too.
And it just stems from what we saw last week. If you just go based on raw snap shares, it was kind of a three-way rotation. Season low for Parkinson at 42%, Hunter Long 34%. That's kind of been in his range. And then a season high for Davis Allen, who interestingly has been used as a blocking tight end through most of his career. But this morning we dug into his routes and it was shockingly high. 20 routes for this guy, which has not been how he was used previously. But if Sean McVay is going to put him on the field, let's even say it's 15 conservatively. I mean, we're talking about he opens the entire salary for you, for everyone else in your lineup if you play a guy like that. And he only needs 1-2 targets down there. So he is my favorite if you made me pick, but this is still extremely volatile. Projections are super low on all three, but at some point it's just give me the cheapest one who's maybe going to run the most routes, and then I'll just go up and get Achane and Kyron and everyone else.
That's how I feel. I mean, I'm in the same boat. Davis Allen to me is the best option of the three. Is it possible that Kobe Parkinson kind of just reemerges? Sure. But at that price, I'll take the guy who played more snaps, ran more routes, and had more targets last week. And Kobe Parkinson's been trending downward. So that isn't to say I have no Kobe Parkinson, Matt. I do. I have about, I think, 10%. But I don't intend on boosting him. I think I'll leave it exactly where it is, and I'll go from there. With Tyreek Hill, we got people asking, like, over or under on Hill. Look, if you want, ladder him up to 100 or something. You're going to get great odds. I was seeing plus 250 out there, plus 300 on 110. Like, this is a guy who last year in a game like this, in a particular spot like this, mind you, the Rams have allowed 500-yard receivers this year, 790-plus yard receivers this season. They've allowed good receivers and not so great receivers to clear that 100-yard mark. They struggle specifically against guys like Tyreek Hill, who just kills every coverage, but best in the league against zone last year. I look at a spot and I say, yeah, if you're going to bet it, you're talking over under, just bet the alt or ladder it, play small plays, ladder it up to 100 or $110. But ultimately, Matt, from a DFS perspective, I'll die on the hill in a spot like this. If I end up going, oh man, I had too much Tyreek Hill, that's something I can certainly live with today. I have 30%, 31% at the flex position. I have 13% at captain. That's getting me still sub 50% total on a slate where you have Devon Achane, Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Tua Tagovailoa, and Matthew Stafford. Getting around 43, 44% Tyreek Hill with 13 at captain. Perfectly okay with that.
Yeah, that's around where I want to be. I've run the Sims a couple times in the back end. I might have to give him a slight boost. It sounds like you might be on the higher end, and this will just vary a little bit sim to sim. But I ended up with 22% unencumbered. I want to come up on that a little bit because of all the reasons you mentioned. A season ago, he would be the highest projected guy on the slate without question.
He'd have a 98.5-yard receiving prop or close.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you get him somewhat at a discount this year. He's still $10K, second most expensive guy on the slate in the flex, but he's definitely not a guy I want to be underweight to. And I plan on bringing him up a little bit. I'm not going to make a lot of adjustments tonight, but bringing up Hill is one of them. And it's just going to flatten me everywhere else because I'm pretty overexposed to Achane right now, who I like in his own right. But I would not be surprised whatsoever if Tyreek Hill just outscores him. And we have a pretty decent gap between them, just projected fantasy points right now.
What about Waddle? I mean, the truth is that Jalen Waddle's been the number 3 on this team. And here's the even crazier part. And this is not me saying not to play Jalen Waddle, because the price point is indicative of a guy who has not been all that involved, which is what you want if you're going to play him. And I think he's 100% viable today. But what about the fact that in the games that Tua has played, in the 4 games he's played, he's completed 3, but he played, almost a half of that the second week against Buffalo. What about the fact that Jalen Waddle's 4th in targets behind Tyreek Hill, Devon Achane, Janu Smith as well? How crazy is that?
It's really crazy, and I almost don't want to believe it. I just have been looking at last year's samples and the target gap between these players, and I flat out do not have an explanation for this. He's played in every game, seems fully healthy, not on the injury report. I flat out just do not, and you could rationalize it a little bit when they were playing, like Skylar Thompson and their third string quarterback. But now with Tua back in, for this to persist a little bit, it's just perplexing. I want to just fall back on last year's sample and assume Jalen Waddle is going to see a resurgence at some point this year. And he's priced down now, so you can definitely take these shots. You're not sinking like 8K into a receiver. So I plan on playing a decent amount of Waddle. He actually fits into a fair amount of my lineups just because of where his price lands. So I'm okay with him. I want to buy low on a guy like this who's just this talented.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I don't have a lot at captain, and
Same.
I'm okay with that. But you know what? I'm pretty much with the field on Jalen Waddle today.
That's where
I don't know where
be.
you are. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. I don't want Jalen Waddle to kill me one way or the other. Put it that way.
You could use him in captain, I think, but the problem with captain is you just have Achane, Kyren, Puka, Cup. I mean, there's Tyreek. There's so many options. So I think taking shots on him in the flex just makes more sense given his role.
Even yeah, you wouldn't normally hear me say this, but based on the pricing, even a guy like Stafford, you get I will say my captain exposure to Stafford has come down a lot from this morning. I don't know about you. That is the spot where my captain ownership has come down, exposure has come down a lot. It is on guys like Stafford, whereas Achane, Kyren, Tyreek, Puka, even Janu. I have more Janu at captain than I do Jalen Waddle and Cooper Kupp, which is pretty crazy considering when you look at these price points. Janu Smith, it does kind of make sense because what's the price point on Waddle? At captain, you're getting him at 9,900, and Janu Smith at captain, you're getting it 6,600, right? And Janu Smith's just been involved. So, me right now getting 7% Janu Smith at captain, I'm not horribly disappointed in that. Like you said, there's 100 other guys that are just great spots, top tier talents that you want to get to. But I'll bet you those Janu captain lineups look pretty good with the flex players you're getting to.
Yeah, they do. I've been actually looking at a lot of those. You can play 4 studs very clearly. And then instead of playing, I don't know, a Davis Allen or something at the bottom, you can get like a Cardi or a defense or a Sanders, which just brings up the overall projection of the lineup. So I'm not averse to that. There's like a little bit of sticker shock with it, I think. I was kind of averse to this in the beginning, but he's at such a unique price point with a strong projection down there. He's one of our best values in the entire slate, just across the board, regardless of price point. And I mean, he hasn't seen fewer than 6 targets in 4 straight games. Ingold's not playing, and actually the guy who has the second most backfield snaps and sort of that H-back role on the team is Janu. He's been used in a lot of like really weird, creative ways near the goal line with some of these. I don't know what to call them other than, like those Andy Reid style plays where you get these shuffle passes and stuff. He's involved in those, and he's a freak athlete, so it makes sense. But I think he's actually a little bit safer than we've seen at any other point in his career, which is kind of wild to say. But they just don't have any other talented tight ends.
What do you make of all the actives at the wide receiver position for the Rams today? This is something you brought up to me before we started the show. The fact that we got Whittington back, right? And, Tyler Johnson, Demarcus Robinson, Tutu Atwell. I mean, what direction do you take with this?
So they have 7 active receivers. One of them is Xavier Smith, who is their kick returner. That's basically all he does. He would need like 5 of these guys to get injured to play any offensive snaps. We could call it 6 if we want, but still, why do they have 6 active receivers when 2 of them are going to play 100% of the snaps or damn near close to it?
I couldn't tell you.
And DeMarcus is probably going to play 70%.
How many active tight ends are there? Still 3?
Yeah, the normal 3, the normal running backs, and then 7 receivers.
I don't
Most
understand it.
teams most teams have 5 active receivers on a week-to-week basis.
I
I went and
know.
double checked this because I didn't believe it. I went and searched every individual receiver. All 7 of them are playing.
So it's clearly Puka Nacua and Cooper Cup. That's obvious at this point.
I think it's
Um,
obvious with Robinson too.
you would think so.
For DFS, you can't play him anyway because he's priced as if one of Cooper Cup or
Yeah.
Nakua are out or limited. So luckily, it's not like he's at a price point where we really need to debate this. You shouldn't be getting a lot of Robinson anyway. But I mean, kind of like just having 7 of these guys active sort of puts the clamps on even considering one of these cheap guys. Like earlier in the day, if you had told me you wanted to throw a dart at like Whittington or something, I would have been like, okay, sure. But now that they have every single one, I thought for sure one of these guys wasn't going to play.
What
So, dude,
about
I don't know if I'm going to have another Rams receiver. Like for sure, I'm going to have Cup and Nakua. I might have a sprinkling of Robinson. Right now, I have barely any, but I don't think I'm going to play a single other Rams receiver.
I'm pulling up props on receiving yards right now just to see if there's, anything you and I are missing. My guess is the answer to that is no. Like I'm wondering if books with all of these guys active, they're even willing to do it. Let's see. All right, so DeMarcus, I'm just going to scroll down on the live odds tool for Odd Shopper. It's free, by the way. You should use it all the time, every day. I do.
I do too.
So yeah, like Parkinson, this is crazy. He's anywhere from 13 and a half to 19 and a half. Demarcus Robinson is anywhere from 27 and a half to 30 and a half. Tutu Atwell's at 5.5. Tyler Johnson's at 7.5. I
Really?
mean, yeah, 7.5. So like those guys actually have props. We have nothing on Whittington. Um, but we do on those 3 other guys. Yeah. And then if you look at the other side of this game, you have an Odell Beckham prop as well. 10.5. 10.5. These guys are essentially unplayable outside of just sprinkling them in, right? There's nothing on guys like Malik Washington or anything like that. Um, let's see. Does River Craycraft have something? So
Probably
shockingly,
not. But honestly, I think he's the worst case scenario for Malik Washington and Odell Beckham. Like he's the other active receiver they've been carrying is D. Eskridge, who's like an XFL receiver. Like River Craycraft plays sometimes.
yeah, he does.
Like what a messy situation. Which I guess to circle it all the way back to these tight ends, that's why I like Janu so much. That's why I'm okay going all the way down to Davis Allen. You don't have anything you could actually feel good about with Malik Washington or Odell Beckham. I guess if you force me to pick a receiver who's not a stud, it would probably be Malik Washington. But even that, I feel horrible about.
So do I. I mean, just looking at our projections too. I mean, all of these guys are in the basement. I have, like 1 or 2% of guys like Tyler Johnson or Craycraft just because they're active, but that is the only reason why. Um, what about the absence of Alec Ingold?
That's really interesting because he plays a unique position and they actually use a fullback offense,
Yeah.
sometimes around 30% of the time. I
He's
think
even
they're
had a
gonna
target from here or there. It's not like he's never been targeted.
no, he's like Kyle Juszczyk, where once in a while he has a play that's designed for him and everyone is shocked. And I believe he scored the first touchdown in that whatever stadium. Anyway, maybe that was he might have been on the Raiders when that happened. Anyway, regardless, I think they're going to split this up between Janu, who's played more in the backfield than any of their other tight ends. Julian Hill has a couple backfield snaps, as does the tight end that they started using recently, Tanner Connor. He's only out there for a very small portion of the snaps, but he has lined up in the backfield before. He played 11% of the snaps last week. The only real difference was last week you had Julian Hill out, but Alec Ingold was up. But still, like one of these tight ends is nominally going to play that role. I just think they split it.
I would
The
think
only
so
guy I
too.
think who doesn't get backfield stuff is Smythe.
Does it make a difference like behind? Yeah, I agree with that too. Does it make it behind Jonnu Smith? Does it matter today?
Personally, I think it doesn't. Julian Hill has spent most of it, a vast, vast majority of his snaps blocking. Durham Smythe, most of his snaps blocking. Tanner Connor has only played 23 snaps this year. He's ran 18 routes and he has 5 run blocking snaps, but he's still 4th in this pecking order. He is live to play 0 snaps today. I think he'll get like 5 to 10, but I would not be surprised if it comes into 0. So when you look at these guys and their profiles, who's going to take over Ingold? Well, Ingold is a blocker anyway. Now maybe instead of these 21 personnel snaps where Ingold's in these unique personnel formations, maybe it's still just Janu, but instead they have another tight end in line, Durham Smythe, Julian Hill. I don't think it matters which one because those guys aren't running routes anyway. It's just Janu.
And you can't play Beckham. I mean, the guy's wild. I mean, you can. He has a prop. He has a prop of 10 and a half. But it's
He
isn't
stinks,
that what's
man.
isn't that what's kind of funny about these teams though? When you look at them, they're actually really similar. They're actually really similar in the sense that like you have Kyron Williams, you have Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. You're clearly your big 3, right? On the other side, a little bit different because the backfield is more split than you'd like, but Devon Achan's still the top dog, like the best producer. Then you have Tyreek Hill. Last year it would have been a little bit different, but now you have Janu Smith and Jalen Waddle. What I'm getting at though is like if any of these guys, if any of Malik Washington or Odell Beckham or Tutu Atwell or Tyler Johnson or Jordan Whittington, if any of those guys, and some of them are unplayable on their salaries alone, but if any of them were to have a decent game, this is going to be like a 2-target performance where Tyler Johnson has one of those wild 50-yard receptions downfield or something.
Man, I hope that doesn't happen. I want to ask you a question though without Ingold, because this is his first game inactive and he has not played anything less than 30% of the snaps in any game this year, and he's been as high as 54% in an individual game. Aside from the fullback stuff, Miami is the team in the NFL that uses like double running back formations at the highest rate. I don't think they're going to go to more 11 personnel. I've seen this debated in the chat a little bit. You know, do they go to more formations? Obviously, Tyreek and Waddle are on the field, but increase snaps for Washington and Beckham. I almost think you would rather increase the snaps for both Achane and Mostert, Achane and Jalen Wright. And I think that's something that could be sneaky today.
Huh.
Like there are games this year, like week 3, and again, some of this is because of the Tua stuff. Week 3, Achane, 74% of snaps, Jalen Wright, 21, Jeff Wilson, 23. That's well above 100%. That's a lot of 21 personnel. Week 4, Achane 73%, Jalen Wright 47, Jeff Wilson 3. That's well above 100%. They will use 2 running backs on the field at the same time on occasions.
Well, I would say this. The only other question is, does Raheem Mostert's fumble from last week spill over to this week? I want to say no. I don't think so. The guy's a veteran.
Agree. But even let's use week 4 where he was out. Jalen Wright, 47% of snaps, Achane 73.
Yeah.
So let's say they do punish Mostert. You could still see 2 back sets, but Jalen Wright's on the field. And I'm with you. I don't think he gets significantly punished, but I don't know. Just something to at least think about.
Yeah, no, look, everything's worth thinking about with these slates. So with that in mind, then okay, so like, let's actually work through this. Would you provide a boost to Jalen Wright in a spot like this?
I'm thinking about it because these guys are so bad down here.
And Jalen Wright has talent too. You know, we saw when Jeff Wilson was hurt and Raheem Mostert was out, you got 47% of snaps from Jalen Wright in week 4. I remember that because I gambled on Jalen Wright and it did not pay off. But at the same time, this guy might
so bad on that, dude.
I know, because I nailed I nailed the scenario. Yeah. Nailed the scenario perfectly. Like, hey, because remember, it was like Jeff Wilson got hurt during warmups and now he's questionable. When a guy gets hurt during warmups and it's actually reported, the chances are that they're not going to be full strength or play at all. So it's like, all right, let me go Jalen Wright here. Raheem Mostert's out. Plays a ton of snaps, season high 47%, and just did nothing. The whole team was garbage in that game. They didn't have Tua. But besides the point, like Raheem Mostert's the type of guy that I would love to play today, but that price point is so prohibitive.
Yeah, he's like, I'm just playing Waddle every time straight up over him or finding the salary to get to someone else. The other
Or
reason
even
I bring up Wright is just because we have him projected for 2% ownership. Like a boost to get him to 5% and double the field. That's something I'm definitely interested in. And you don't need to be crazy with him and make a huge stand.
you really don't. And it's also pretty nuts that, you look at last week and he played 9 snaps, had 6 carries.
He looks good when he's out there, aside from the game you and me played him. But that's not his fault. That's just because Tua was gone and this team was lifeless.
Nobody could do anything. Literally, none of them could do anything.
Tyreek couldn't do anything.
No, Tyreek's having his worst season ever, and it's no surprise. I mean, you get Skylar Thompson out there or Tyler Huntley. Who was the other one? Who was the other former Detroit backup that was out there? Joe Boyle, I think it was.
Tim Boyle.
Tim Boyle, yeah. This is
Tim
this is
Boyle.
as bad. Yeah, Tim Boyle. That's as bad as it gets. So yeah, I mean, just breaking this down from top to bottom. If I were to ask you, this is always fun. If I were to ask you, give me 3 of your favorite value plays. Let's say 3 favorite value plays, 3K or cheaper. So if you wanted to use Jalen Wright, you can put him in there.
I think it's going to be, man, I might just say not Hill, excuse me. The backup Rams side, and I don't have it in front of me. It's escaping me right now.
Davis Allen.
Yeah, Davis Allen 1 just to save the salary. 2, I think it's actually probably right. This is a really bad range. I don't know. Malik Washington 3.
It's a rough range. I think it has to, so you're pretty much just backed into the corner with Davis Allen and Wright. Past those guys, like you're not going to Smythe Hill. Blake Corum played one. By the way, guys, Kyron Williams played 99% of snaps last game. 99% of snaps. So it's just crazy. And damn, Bitcoin hit 90K. Let's go. I saw it. I texted a buddy like 10 minutes before the show. I was like, Bitcoin's about to hit 90K. Did it actually hit it? Good stuff. But yeah, Matt, once you get past those guys, you're in no man's land. Does it end up just being Tyler Johnson? Because once in a while, Sean McVay decides that he likes Tyler Johnson. Remember, sometimes Sean McVay loves Tyler Johnson. Other times, maybe it's Stafford. Other times they hate him. Like look at his snap counts and targets from week to week this year. With guys in, with guys out. It's the strangest thing. Like there was a game he played 14% of snaps. Whittington played 92% of snaps. Before that, Tyler Johnson played 10%. Then he plays 91% when Whittington gets hurt and then goes back to like basically a whatever role here, but is involved. Like he still played 38% of snaps with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua in week 8, 38% last week. Granted, Puka Nacua got ejected, but does he just end up playing, 20% of snaps today and gets 2 targets?
I think it's thinner because they have 7 guys, and Demarcus Robinson, for whatever reason, he played his season lowest snaps last week. It was still 70%. Like through thick and thin, all those games where they were yo-yoing Jordan Whittington, Tyler Johnson snaps, the one thing that remained consistent was Demarcus Robinson was out there wind sprinting every single one of those snaps, regardless of who else was out there. So, I mean, just like by deduction, Kupp's not coming off the field, Puka's not coming off the field. I think you have at least 50% for Demarcus, at least. And that's probably being, I don't know, generous to Atwell, Johnson, and the rest of them. So what does that leave those guys? You're right about McVay doing crazy things. I mean, if you want to throw him in a couple, it's definitely not the craziest thing you could do. But yeah, man, I don't feel strongly about him playing a lot tonight.
Yeah, can't say I do either. I have a tiny bit of him though. And I don't think it's the most insane thing ever. If you're playing a bunch of lineups, like there might just be some guys that you end up plugging in. Because you have so many expensive players. You have so many expensive players. So like it does make you wonder, right? Like what if you had a 6-point game from Tyler Johnson? Could that, potentially get you there? Maybe. But even 6 points for Tyler Johnson still tough to get to. That's why I keep just going back to the whole Davis Allen thing. It's like if I'm just going to full out punt and hope that I get, 2 for 20 and a touchdown, you just keep coming back to a Davis Allen, even a Hunter Long, because they're so cheap. They're almost minimum salary. And here's a kind of a way to crystallize it. Maybe you could add on to this. How much different is a Davis Allen and a Hunter Long from any of these wide receivers that aren't named Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua? And then Robinson, but he's priced up.
Yeah, I mean, they're not really that different at all. When you adjust for price, we actually have higher value on some of those players down in the doldrums, just because of the difference in projection, then the difference in salary. You're going to get to more Davis Allen. You're going to get to more Hunter Long. And it's nothing against Demarcus Robinson. If you're like looking for upside or something, he certainly has it more than those other guys. But I mean, he definitely carries significant risk with everyone back healthy for this team. Again, just to sum it all up, he's priced as if one of those studs is out.
And it's not just one of those studs who might come back and play 50% of snaps with 5 targets. It's like you could see, easy 20 plus targets combined between the two of them today. That actually might be a conservative estimate if both of them stay on the field.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're going to see 60% of the targets go to Kupp and
what an
Puka Nacua.
Insane number, right? Like that. There's only a few teams in the league where you get something that concentrated. And you know what? This is one of them. So yeah, you guys obviously make your own decisions, decide how you want to play this. But for me, I probably just punt. And sorry for looking away from the screen. I'm trying to finalize these lineups here right now, Matt. I think we're good. Are you
I do that all the time. There is one interesting point in chat that, so Ingold's not hurt. He was limited practice and questionable with the calf. Maybe he's more hurt than I anticipate, but the Rams are 30th in pass coverage. Maybe they do intend to throw the ball more.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so hard to parse these things without being super close to the situation. I don't know. I thought Ingold was going to play after he got 3 limiteds in.
So, all right, they've got. Do you think that's what it suggests, though?
No, I just think it's an interesting idea.
Oh yeah. Look, I'm more than willing to explore every possible idea that we have for sure. But are there really do we really look at those guys and be like, yeah, you know what? I think they're going to throw more. Or
No.
is this a situation where Tyreek Hill plays more limited snaps?
Well, I think if they throw more, it just benefits Hill and Waddle. It's not really a conversation for Beckham, Malik, or these guys. Like a higher passer just makes me more interested in Waddle and Tyreek. I'm not going to change anything at this point. It's too close to lock, and I already got it right around the field with both of them. Just an interesting thought.
All of these thoughts are interesting because we never know which way it's going to go. And looking at the way it breaks down right now, do you think it's possible that one of these dirt cheap options actually gets you there? It is. It's just who? Like if Janu Smith ends up being captain with 19 in the captain spot, I wouldn't be shocked by it in the event that this game goes 50 plus points and you end up getting a monster performance from 3 or 4 of the big guns, right? Those guys are so expensive, but they're so involved. From Stafford to Tagovailoa, touching the ball every single play, to Hill, to Waddle, to all of these guys, Cooper Kupp, Nacua, Kyren Williams. I mean, if it gets you to jam those guys, it's not the craziest thought in the world. The only thing there is how duped are you going to end up being in a spot like that?
Our Sims didn't think it was crazy to do. I was looking at the dupes. When you walk into a cheaper captain, let's use Janu for today. He's probably the one that makes the most sense. Everyone's trying to play the studs. That's why you're playing a guy like Janu. But I found a lot of ways to build lineups where, Janu is your cheaper captain and you still run into unique builds. I think part of the reason is you have at least 5 studs, 7 if you include the QBs. And then that opens you up to a mid-range instead of needing to punt. So you have multiple defenses, multiple kickers. So I didn't see a lot of dupe problems with the cheaper Janu stuff.
Me neither. he's probably underpriced if you think about it compared to some of these other guys.
Yeah, I definitely think that's true.
Yeah.
He's like what? Among the players that are above 4K, he's our third best price adjusted value.
For sure. Yeah. And you can look at our top stacks, our top single game plays tool, showdown tool, and it'll give you all of that. 4,400 for Janu is pretty wild. Yeah, I think people forget too. Remember, everybody hated Arthur Smith last year for not using Kyle Pitts. But if you remember, like Janu Smith actually had some really nice games. Everyone hated Janu Smith in Atlanta because no one wanted to play him and they were using two tight ends and using him in the red zone. Janu Smith had a few really nice games. Like the guy is a capable pass catching tight end, and he's proven so throughout the season. It's just he's only had a few games to play with Tua. This is his first year in Miami. He's been decent. Like, I don't know. I think ultimately that could decide a lot of things today for me. I have a good amount of him. But really, Matt, as we come up against it here at 8:15, there's no doubt that my heaviest exposure, looking at guys like Kyron and Devon Achane, and even Tyreek Hill is up there, and Matthew Stafford in the flex. It's like you're just gonna have to have the right combination of top dogs in order to have a shot to begin with.
Yeah, I think that's 100% it. In my lineups, we're not leaving a ton of salary on the table. Most of them were within 1,000. Most outside of that, like very few were above 2K. So as you can see, when you have 7 studs you like, you can mix and match them to shave off some ownership. And we mentioned a lot of value guys that are in play. I'm not sure I would say I love any of them, but I think it's not going to be a super doopy slate compared to some other ones we've seen.
Well, here we go, baby. We are locked. Appreciate you guys. You're the best. Thank you for hanging out as always. Hit that thumbs up before you go. Follow Matt at Matt_Gajewski, me at Loughran_D. And remember, any of our partners, you sign up with any of them, you got to use that link down in the description. Follow the 4 simple steps. You got all the tools for free for a month. You get as many months as you want, depending on how many of those books you sign up at, or use the other. Make it happen. Sign up the natural standard way and join us. Everyone gets access to Discord as well, so join that community. And if you ever have questions, my DMs are open on Twitter at Laffy_D. Thank you guys. Good luck. Let's one of us take down the big one tonight. Come back, celebrate, or commiserate on Thursday. One way or another, we'll see you back here 10:15 Eastern Thursday morning for more football. Peace.